Welcome, I'm Pamela Pike Gordinier, and I'm an artist and activist. This is my studio where I created the art for the exhibition In Their Shoes, which is at Lyman, Allyn until July 30th. The whole concept of the exhibit is really about bringing awareness to the problem of domestic violence, and in particular to keynote Safe Futures, which is an organization that has helped 170 survivors this past year. I got started in this whole thing because I was asked by a friend to go to a breakfast that Safe Futures holds. And on another level, someone dear to me was going through the kind of thing that I was hearing that Safe Futures could help with, and was in a domestic violence situation. That became very personal, and I started to think, how could I help? How could I help these people, help this organization? Since I'm an artist and my work revolves around questions, I started to think about what question I should ask. Picasso said what he wanted was the questions, not the answers. So my question basically was, how could I bring awareness to this issue, and could art be a vehicle for social change? Which I believe it can, but I was wondering how much. And to do so, I started thinking about all the variety of ways that I could help bring in people who were dancers, poets, musicians, bring the community together and use all these different perspectives to shed light on this issue. So, since I never do anything in an uncomplicated way, I asked Julia Pavoni, who I'd worked with before at Alexi von Schlippe Gallery, to help curate the show, and in particular to help with the arch that I was going to be working with. So back up. I thought about the title, In Their Shoes, and then realized that I could use shoes as a vehicle, a metaphor for transformation, just like Cinderella. When I started telling people about this idea, they immediately thought about the Holocaust Museum. But that's about old memories. And what I wanted to do is bring new memories and hope to this group of people who needed to survive. So with that, I asked Safe Futures for the statistics and they came up with 170 people who were helped, and that was men, women, and children. I took those demographics of that population and then proceeded to collect new shoes that would represent each one of them. In addition to that, I thought, well, when you do art like this, you are always thinking about how, in installation art, how you're going to use everything. What is your, not only what is your question, but how can you best present this? So a friend of mine who's a sailmaker, Jim Funk, created a labyrinth out of sailcloth, and we then put the shoes on the sailcloth so that when you entered the exhibition, you would have to go through these shoes. Also, we took the shoe boxes. My husband Glenn painted them all white, as well as the artifacts from the exhibition, from the shelter, the hospitality area, the teddy bear, the toothbrushes, the things that are left behind and that people will need or are then donated, which you can do, by the way, to help people in that transition mode. All of that is painted white. We created those shoe boxes and made an altar, an arch for hope. So as you walk through the exhibit, you're also hearing the voices of survivors who have been asked the question, what do you hope for? And you will hear some very powerful questions that they have, or ideas that they have. One woman, I understand, well, you hear different languages, you hear that they are, in some of it's much more raw because it's newer to them than people who have gone through this, and some of it is a little bit behind them. So a labyrinth is a vehicle for contemplation. It's almost a walking prayer. And I use that as a way for you to contemplate and think about what your hope is. And you are asked to also write down what your hope is. So you walk through the exhibit, you hear the voices, you hear Glenn Hardy's music that helps carry you away softly and gently, and then you turn and you see a line from a piece of poetry that Lana Orphanides has written that is really talking about grace. All of this adds to the story. As you exit the exhibition, there is a dance by Erica Martin, who is the choreographer. It was my idea, my concept, that the dancer would be walking through life as though nothing changed, but the shadow would be taking all the blows. And so Erica got together a team of people, including Will Platt, who is a young musician and composer, all from Connecticut College, and they taped this. And there are 7 passes where she goes across the screen, and in each time she's just walking as though nothing is happening, but you see the shadow taking the blows until the very end where she and the shadow meet. In one of the presentations, she actually does this live and comes out and does the dance live at the end, which I believe you're going to see. So all of this is happening, and I'm trying to figure out how to bring these various people together and the community together. And at the same time, Safe Futures is supporting me in all of this. The poets, there were 4 of them that were asked, 3 were able to come that evening, and it was transformative. It took people to another level. Again, the written word did something completely different and made you aware in a way that perhaps dance didn't, or the visual component of the exhibition. So in all of this, I hope that if you're a shoe lover, or you believe that you are a vehicle for social change, and that you have the imagination that you can see a better world, I encourage you to give to Safe Futures. And in particular, you can go to their website, safefutures.org, and there is a button that you can push for In Their Shoes, and you can donate. So I hope you imagine a different place, a different world, and that you're ready to help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you've had almost a full hour of conversation, so I will try to make this as brief as possible. But Pam, thank you. Thank you for bringing awareness, and Julia and everyone involved, but thank you for spearheading this. I think art truly allows us the opportunity to become vulnerable. And only when we're vulnerable can we actually interact with one another in a meaningful way. When I was upstairs and I was walking through the maze and I saw these shoes and I heard the voices, I didn't just see the 170 people that were in our shelter in 2016. I saw the additional 123 hotel nights because we were over capacity and we needed to keep somebody safe. I saw the 30 women and children who are in our transitional housing programs start to rebuild their life. And I saw the 3,233 individuals who utilize our civil and criminal court advocates to help them when they face their abusers. Those numbers are staggering. What else I saw when I was walking through and I saw these shoes was I saw my own life mirrored back to me, because I am a survivor of domestic violence. And when I saw the little tiny baby boy shoes, the green ones and the gray ones, it reminded me of the night I left my abuser. I was frantic and I gave myself an hour to pack. And I filled my car with diapers and wipes and bottles and blankets and all the things my son would need because he wasn't going to suffer because I had gotten to a bad marriage. And I shoved all those things in my car. And I shoved the dog food in my car because I had a puppy at the time who was also being abused, and I left. And so seeing those shoes, it reminded me of packing his things. And then it reminded me that I forgot to pack for myself because I was so preoccupied with my son, and how I arrived that night at the shelter with shoes on that had holes and clothes on that barely fit because I hadn't showered in a week because I was petrified. And laying down that night and looking at my baby boy, and he smiled, and he just radiated joy and happiness because he finally was out of an abusive home. So that's what I saw when I saw those little baby boy shoes. And then I saw the women's pumps. And it reminded me when I had to go to court to face my abuser for the first time. And part of me was hopeful. Hopeful for the fact that maybe he would be remorseful. And he would come running up to me and say, I am so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm in a program, I'm gonna change, I love you, I love our family, let's be a family. And then the realization that that wasn't reality. When somebody's an abuser, rarely will they change. It's not impossible, and I give credit to those that try. So when I was standing there and I had to go into court, part of me, like I said, was hopeful that he was gonna come and be remorseful and I'd be a proper family again. But the other part of me was panicked, because what if he came up to me and instead of being remorseful, he was angry? And the threats that he gave me when I left, he was actually going to fulfill, and I might not be standing here. And the powerful moment when I finally walked into that courtroom, and there was noise everywhere, and attorneys and people in suits, and I saw him for the first time staring at me. And I took a step forward. And you know what I heard? The sound of my heels hitting the ground. And in that moment, I felt powerful, because for the first time in 4 years, I could face him knowing I was safe. I could face him knowing that he will never, ever hurt me or my child ever again. And that is the only sound I heard that day, was my heels walking down that hall, giving me power and strength. And so thank you, Pam, for allowing me the opportunity to reflect on that. Because I am 5 years away from my abuser on June 20th, and I am so grateful for that. And Safe Futures is that. They are that hope to people. They are that foundation upstairs, because those shoes wouldn't be there without the floor that they rest upon. Safe Futures isn't just about saving lives, restoring hope, and changing futures. They truly are about empowering individuals to be the best possible person they can be. And so tonight, I do have a request of you. If it is with all possibility for you to contribute financially, please do so. Because all of our services are free and confidential. And the reason for that is because there can be absolutely no barriers to when somebody is ready to leave. As you saw in the dance, which was absolutely beautiful. It takes, on average, 7 times for somebody to leave. And the hours that they are finally leaving are the most dangerous. We have to be there ready and able to say yes to that person to come. There can't be any barriers to saying, well, it's going to cost you to come. We have to be well stocked and have the resources to answer yes to everyone, to be on everyone's journey and path. And you have the opportunity to do so tonight, whether it is advocating, as Chris and Frankie mentioned, whether it's just in your own home with your own friends. You know, maybe you don't have a financial means to give tonight, but maybe you have a group of friends, a book club. We'd be happy to come to your book club and talk about the work that we do, and maybe together you can bring donations. Maybe that's a care package. Maybe that's shoes. Maybe that's gift cards. It could be something, it could be nothing, but give. Give of your time, give of your intellect, give of your heart. That's what we are all about. We are about giving of our hearts. I do have a few staff members, our Director of Finance and our Associate Director of Grants standing by the doors, and they have little slips of cards if you are interested in contributing tonight to Safe Futures, and as well as there's a Hope bucket upstairs on our table, and I strongly encourage you to go up and look at our brochures, look at our 40th brochure to see how far we've come in 40 years, but how far we need to go. As Nazmi mentioned, Kathy Verano is in China training because they just installed their first domestic violence law. It's 2017, and they're finally addressing the issues. Well, we have 40 years up on them, and you know what? I want to continue to make sure that we can truly create a community where violence is not tolerated. I'll be available for the rest of the night if any of you have questions, and at this time I believe we're going to recess upstairs to the library, and hopefully you get an opportunity to walk through the exhibit. There is a table out front of the exhibit to write your hope. I know I did. I wrote my hope and I walked through that maze and I cried and I remembered. And I also know that because of hope I can stand here today. So thank you for listening, thank you for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Take these shoes. The red heels, the sneakers, the shoes that you've seen in LL Bean, they are yours now. That journey can be taken now, after all. Those other shoes, battered, left behind, thrown at your face, left under the bed as you fled, those are gone. And here now are these. No one said no obstacles, just that now you have a chance. Now you have no gravel caught between your toes, no broken glass, no boiling water. Take your son, your daughter, here. Take these shoes and fly. As you know, the shoes that are up in the exhibit will be given to those people in Safe Futures who need them. All new shoes. I hope everybody got to see the exhibition. If not, I hope you do come back and see it. This is the poem that it is part of the exhibition. Installation, I should say. An exchange of grace. Here, there is an exchange of grace as you move to a place of refuge, to a place of hope, from a dark bog to a vernal pool of clear water. No longer a maze where there is no exit, but a labyrinth where at the end there is a hand, and the journey known, where every step moves forward, a place where once again your feet can fly, can dance, your shoes will hold you, help you balance. Here there's an exchange of grace. Here there is a place to take a new step. You, your child, your mother, your father. Here is a place to lay your head, to place your shoes. In Greek mythology, the labyrinth is more of a maze, I would say, where you never know if you can make it through or if you can find your way. But the general labyrinth has just one path that you can follow and is much easier. I would never go through a maze, never. I'd never come out, I'm sure. So this poem plays on the mythological labyrinth through which Ariadne leads Theseus through a cave, and she leads him through with a string. The labyrinth. We were far from home, stumbling in a distant land, our resources spent, our heads spinning and bent, looking for the usual fear. When a labyrinth appeared, something ahead held out a string and we grabbed for it. Behind us, an immense bull and the many-snaked monster, beings we had fled not long ago. Above our heads, we heard a melody, a flute or a tune played on an old piano, perhaps a guitar, a cello. Like a companion, it echoed through the labyrinth and led us on. Behind us, still, a dark cave, and before us, darkness. But we did not look back. At the end of the string, an outstretched hand, a paltry thing, but despair turned round and left. The exhibit upstairs has fear, denial, and hope of course is the main theme of it. This poem is called Denial. How is it when we hear warning bells, we run towards the sound, as if it were a church's knell, our caution dispersed in the wind of want, our instincts drowned in hope? We are believers, surely, in that goodness abounds, that love will save the day. Or we miss our own blessings, say we are the cause, say we must stay, despite lesson after brutal lesson. The silence. It wasn't the fact that Mr. Pacheco groped her 13-year-old breasts when he got in the car to drive her home after babysitting for his daughter, who read the Encyclopedia Britannica every night sitting on the floor in front of the bookshelf in the living room, or that she had to remain sitting in his car as he drove the 10 minutes to her house, which looked exactly like every other house in her neighborhood, except for the willow tree. It was that when she told her parents, they said only, "You won't babysit for them anymore." And after, she walked to her room and shut the door. Sometimes it's very hard to know how to respond to a violation or to abuse. Safe Futures has this little card with a phone number on it, which just would be very handy. Especially generational. I think different generations have a different response to things like this. This is a poem of hope. We have only a few of these as we go through. What gives the heart ease? The sea beyond the small pine, the brave winging of tiny birds on this cold, bright morning, the great blue heron rising from the marsh into the quicksilver sky, clouds glowing like mountains, the scallop shell, mussel, clam, and oyster broken and shining on the beach, but not broken by longing. What ache I feel at your kindness, at the bell sound of a single bird in a distant tree. Though wounds stay and glitter like the winter moon, the heart is calmed by the simple cleansing of the waves, the songs of the hidden world, your voice.
My poems tell a story, and they don't really need much introduction. I think denial is a huge part of being in an abusive relationship, and often we know ahead of time, perhaps because of our past. Game. She dreams a man who runs a slaughterhouse for women only. Slabs of blood-soaked meat tossed from hand to hand, sorted, stacked on clean white shelves by hard-working assistants. He watches, a slice of black liver spurting from the corner of his smile. She hides near the door, studies his face carefully. She's no fool. She can tell that certain women are getting out alive. She senses a game, scans the sticky sawdust. One of them may have left her a clue. What he does for her. Pastes newspaper over the ice-spangled windows to warm up his cramped apartment the weekend she tells him she's coming back. Buys a tiny heat lamp, hangs it to gild her naked body. Ignores her comments about the banner across the turnpike bridge, the one he hung there after she fled. A queen-size bedsheet, thick-lettered, "I meant no harm, forgive me." Manages to crack a smile when she teases, musing out loud about the number of women who won't drive on that road now because he sounds like their crazy ex-boyfriends. Leans close to hold her gaze, asks how long she'll stay this time. Counts to 10, tries not to let the fury spike when she turns her golden back, rests her head on the thin pillow and tells him gently, forever, then leaves him to lie awake, matching his breath to hers to keep her safe. He corrects her past. She was not true to him all those years before they met. So each time he reads her journals, he marks the names of friends she's mentioned, then rips the page corners. At night, in the mansion he bought her to thank her for coming back, the cold air clouds with their breath, and he lies hard to the wall until she's on the far edge of dreams, then eases over, breathes deep in her ear's walled shell, his hollows spooning her bones. Did you ever? New name each night, and even though each time she sighs, never, he knows it's because she has learned how to lie in her sleep. Snakes and ladders. Peering down, thick brows furrowed, he tells her to lean hard against the uneven legs, then steps up another rung, another, inching higher, until he can reach out, reach up for the dead light bulb. Spider webs wreath his black curls. The splintered roof sifts dust motes in a sun-shot cloud. She looks away, feels his weight shift, feels the ladder shudder, wraps her arms around the rickety base, just has time to whisper, God, he is going to kill me, before the heavy tangle of his bones slams her into the concrete floor, bloodies her nose and thuds all the air from her lungs. Knees, palms scraped raw, she scrabbles to find breath as he curses fate, curses the ladder, finally drags himself off her, scooping her up to carry her inside. When at last her friends arrive, marveling at the distance they have driven to be with her on her birthday, they find the two of them heaped on the couch, watching cartoons, faces and limbs spattered with gore. Muted by Valium, she hasn't figured out how to tell the story. Can't remember if it's supposed to be a comedy. Even when he finds her, the little block house, like a child's drawing, turns blind eyes to the road, nestles into cornfields on 3 sides, gives her a dry square of earth out back. The first morning she kneels to finger the soil, to rattle the stones into heaps, digging and turning, smudging hair off her sweaty face, until the earth is ready to receive a tapestry of marigolds and 2 uneasy rows of tomato seedlings. It's a tiny plot. It's clear she'll have to cheat on spacing, but there's a sweet balance of sun and shade. So she scoops out neat holes, pressing each plant in, knuckling the earth firm, then hauling pots of water to pool the fragile roots. Even when he finds her, jangles her nights with calls, jams her mailbox with rancor, hammers both his fists almost through the front door, she considers not running this time. She's that much in love with this ragged scrap of earth, the way the clouds shift it dark to light in the mornings when she kneels to tend it. Thank you.
I'd like to explore how we come to these situations and how we maybe get out of them and find hope. This first poem is about a situation that happened to me on the way to school one day. A drunken man stopped me in the street, tried to block my way. I was maybe, I don't know, 8, something like that. And this is where that idea of not saying anything comes and how that perpetuates into our future. This is called between school and home. School is behind me, home before and between this blue-black face with bright pink lips and weekend breath catcalls from across the street. His hat-wearing swagger balances on a breeze, with outstretched arms, bent knees, bloody eye whites drink me in as if I were the brown bag bottle he wears in his pocket with lint and loose change. He does not need to say what he wants. I am 9 and already a woman. That's what my mama told me the day I woke up, cut, screaming for an ambulance. I am all bright-eyed, new woman fear, and the Samaritan arrives only after my socks have fallen under the explosion of my bladder. I walk quickly the rest of the way. Home, I hole up in my room, say nothing to no one. This is called Pandora's Mouth. You stored your love in a virgin urn and hid it behind that fat can of Crisco you used to make pie dough. The effect was cancerous. Each day as you baked, your shoulders slumped a little deeper. Your massive flesh loosened. You were hardly recognizable behind those agonizing black circles ringing your eyes. Each time you opened your mouth, a cloud of gnats emitted and swarmed upon your victim until the whole house came under quarantine with open, running sores. It was tough for me after my siblings left the house. I was the youngest of 6. My oldest sisters are 11 and 12 years older. They became pregnant out of wedlock. Obviously, my mother put the hammer down. So I go into this relationship in college, and it was really good for a while. And then one day, this man slapped me in the face. That kind of behavior did go on for a while, off and on and always. Anybody who's been in this kind of situation knows there's that apology, that begging, pleading. This was the first straw. How sugar lost its sweetness. A simple flick of his wrist and mine lay open, sufficient to release a marriage by drips and flows. A bowl of sugar shoved across a counter, shattering cutthroat secrets of his mother's scar-crossed neck. Crack, jagged slashes of knives and fists unleashed. I packed while he served the obligatory night. We rode fast and far, outrunning domestic violation, sins of the father carried to the son. I left my husband for my son. I did not want him to think that was what normal people do. You know, a lot of people say they stay for the kids. I left for my kid. And I can tell you this, my son is 37 years old. He's never laid his hand on a woman. He has utmost respect and admiration for the woman he's dating. He's not quite gotten to the commitment thing yet. I want grandkids, but I'm waiting on that. This poem is about him. When we left, we came to Connecticut. His father, I'm revealing a lot today, but these are things that I've already worked out with myself, so I'm not having therapy with you guys. But when we left and when we came to Connecticut, eventually his father got out of jail, and he was a crack addict before crack was even a thing. He freebased cocaine, and basically what crack is free-based cocaine as a finished product. So he became hooked on this thing, and it kind of led to our demise. We met in college, very smart man, graduated with 2 majors, was on a fast track to management at the Coca-Cola national company. He just was weak. But this is about my son. He would call him and make these promises to him. And it broke my heart. And it's not just the abused person in that relationship that is affected. And that's the thing that, you know, I think maybe not everyone understands. It's not just the person who's being abused, but it's everybody that has a stake in that relationship. This is called Portrait of the Porch in Summer. There are faded lines where he erased, then stretched the too short porch, made the windows larger, straightened the steps to the multi-pane door on the 2-dimensional replication of the latchkey house, where he returned sometime after 3 weekdays. The curtains are closed and still behind shut windows. No breeze to blow ghost shears aside, to sneak ripple glances of the empty jar of promises he opened each day to deposit jail cell covenants, fragile as Dead Sea Scrolls. He draws a precise facsimile, crayon memories of a 10-year-old's summer, sitting on the steps of the porch, chin shoved into the seat of his palm, awaiting his father's release. And of course, we do get strength from where we don't know, you know. I think a lot of people are encouraged, but we do what we do in our own time. This is called matching postures. On the bed where our son was made, we sit, back facing back. The space between us thick with finality. Sheets crumpled on one side. Your pillow lonely for the familiar indentation where you lay your head. The comforter, missing the tent made by your upturned feet as you lay facing the ceiling on nights where no love was made here. The walls of this room cannot stand this hushed vacancy, the weight of words lingering on our tongues unspoken. Bends us over, elbows on knees. This is our epilogue, your head bent as if in supplication, mine bent too, no longer in forgiveness. I just have a couple more. Now I do have, and I don't want to just like dump on you guys. So I do have an ideal guy, and this is what that person might look like. A man of wisdom. A man of wisdom is a mountain sweating its cap down to nothing. The arid plains of the Serengeti, sun-baked grasses, the baobab tree, paw prints of lions, claws retracted, the collective of every spot on every spotted animal everywhere. A man of wisdom stands like the Tower of Italy, leaning but never falling. When he speaks, a sun ray is breaking out of a cloud. His voice is church bells ringing on the hour. A man of wisdom does not fear the space between breaths, the space between words, the space between a glance and tumbling down a hill of infatuation, knees and elbows curled into stomach, rolling, rolling, rolling. A man of wisdom walks with a bird of happiness cupped in his hand, peeking into the darkness of his hand nest, holding it to his ear to listen to the chirp of glad tidings, baring his teeth in a smile, laughing the good news into the wind. A man of wisdom emits a fragrant odor when he parts his lips to speak. The scent of sandalwood is on his tongue. His teeth are poetry. His words of fine cognac, stinging my ears with their truth. And my last poem, I like to end most of my readings with this poem because it is a poem of hope. It was written at, not during the time when I was going through with my ex-husband, but at a time that was a low point for me. There's a verse in the Bible, Matthew 17:20 says, "Truly I say to you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you, even from the depths." To be a mustard seed, to lie prostrate with your face pressed to the ground, to sink into the earth and shake the soil, to water it with tears, to pray and sleep and start again, to rise up as a shoot, grow limbs, stand naked, to be rained upon and snowed upon and carved, to be a tree, speaking to a mountain saying, "Come down from my shoulders." Thank you.
My name is Kathy Verano, and I've been with Safe Futures for the past 23 years. I am the executive director. I came to Safe Futures with a mission. Prior to coming to Safe Futures, I was in corporate banking, and I had a very close friend and peer named Susan. She was amazing, outgoing, fun, loving. We would go out on Friday night and share our stories of what happened during the week. And sometimes her husband Tom would stop by and join us. They were the cutest couple. One particular Friday night, we went out to celebrate Susan's birthday, and Tom stopped and joined us. We had a great time. Imagine my devastation and shock the next day to find out that Tom killed Susan when they got home that night. He stabbed her 42 times with a pair of scissors while she was in her nightgown. And unfortunately, that is the image I carry of Susan 23 years later. And it is my mission to do this work. So thank you all for your expression. So I came to see this exhibit the day before it opened with Pam Gordinier. I was so moved by the 170 pairs of shoes upstairs that I cried. I was discouraged, thinking that 23 years later, I'm still seeing shoes, different colors and different sizes. The reason I couldn't be here for the opening event, I was in China teaching government and police on domestic violence and laws about domestic violence. They just passed their first domestic violence law. This was funded by the China Law Yale Center at Yale University. But after spending 2 weeks there, I came back and I looked at the exhibit differently. I no longer felt the need to cry. I was actually rejuvenated. China is where we were 40 years ago when we opened Safe Futures. They don't have a shelter. They don't have services. They don't have a 24-hour hotline. And they don't have the laws that we fought these 40 years to pass. I realized how fortunate we are. We have our emergency shelter, 2 24-hour hotlines, counselors in 2 walk-in offices, residential housing programs, court advocates in civil and criminal court, a bail advocate in law enforcement, and educators in schools teaching anti-bullying and healthy relationships. And all of our services are free and confidential and accessible 24 hours a day. But what we need to do is to continue to raise awareness. We are so grateful to Pam Gordinier and her amazing team for this heartfelt exhibit and the awareness it has generated for victims. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting our mission. Thank you.